Hare Krishna. Question from Rupa Gaura Prabhu. This is a continuation of an earlier question. The earlier question was how were Ikshvaku kings rulers of the earth when Ravana was in Lanka? This question is that Lanka was another plane, as you told in your answer. And how is it that we see that the Rama Setu is still there in the sea from Rameshwaram to Sri Lanka? Is it that just as size of people decreases in subsequent yugas, the earth itself shrinks and so the distances too reduce? Answer: the Rama Setu, or what is called as Rama Setu between Rameshwar and Sri Lanka, is not necessarily the bridge that Lord Ram built. In general, devotees are very eager to try to find some empirical evidence to support whatever scriptural teachings that they have learned. And we can always try to find Pratyaksha sources which do not prove but they confirm. Shabda is higher authority, Pratyaksha are lower authorities. So the lower doesn't prove the higher, but rather the lower confirms the higher. So devotees can always do that, but at the same time we have to be careful and adequately critical. For example, one of Srila Prabhupada's prominent scientist disciples, Uttakarma Prabhu, has written a book called Forbidden Archaeology, and he gives a lot of evidences which contradict the theory of evolution. But he says that all the evidences that he takes are from published places. They are published by some scientists in some respectable source in some scientific journal, and then he has compiled them together. He has done original research. That research also gets published in some scientific journal, and then he publishes it in his book. So the point here is that if the evidence that we are offering to support something which is given in Shastra is itself shaky, is itself not very strong, then the effect of that will be that the Shastric truth is sound, but because the support for it which we are giving is weak, people find faults in that supporting point, and because of that they reject the original point also. So therefore we have to be extremely cautious when we take any point from Pratyaksha and Anuman to support Shabda. So now if we look at the Rama Setu, it is very clearly mentioned in the Ramayana that that bridge was floating, and that is considered to be one of the primary miracles that Lord Ram performed during his times. That he built a bridge that floated, the stones floated. And how did they float? Because the Vanaras wrote the name Ram on it by the mystical potency of Lord Ram. Now the bridge that is there today is definitely not floating. It's basically like a ridge that is coming from the bottom of the ocean bed up to a particular level. And secondly, it's also mentioned that when Lord Ram returned after enthroning Vibhishana as the king, at that time Vibhishana requested Lord Ram that this bridge will pose a security threat to Lanka, so can it be destroyed? And then Lord Ram used his massive bow and disrupted the bridge. He destroyed the bridge that was built so just by a single swing of his bow. That was his power. So the point is that because that bridge was floating and because that bridge was said to have been destroyed, so whether that today's Rama Setu is actually today what is called as the Rama Setu is actually the bridge that Lord Ram built is questionable, and we shouldn't uncritically assume that the two are the same. So now I've discussed this with Uttakarma Prabhu and several other devotee scientists. So Uttakarma Prabhu's point was that if if the rocks, if the stones that make the Rama Setu are investigated, and if it is found that almost all the stones or majority of the stones that make the Rama Setu are not from the nearby area, but they are not just from the ocean vicinity. It's not just a ridge that has grown from the ocean, that due to some natural uh, geological movements, but it has stones have been brought from elsewhere, that kind of stones are not formed in the ocean, then that could be a significant point in support of the idea that this might be the Rama Setu. So as of now, we don't have to uncritically identify the the seeming bridge that is there between India and Lanka to be Rama Setu. And then, as far as the Earth's size is concerned, the point is well known that people's physical dimensions decrease. Now, whether sizes of everything decreases, it's possible because Kali Yuga is a place where everything shrinks. So it's possible that the physical dimensions of places may also shrink. But till now, we have not come across any specific reference for this point. And it's a theory that deserves research. The Karma Prabhu, myself, and several other devotees, we are working on researching to see if there is any clear statement to this effect, and that will also help us understand a lot about the differences in dimensions that we often see between what are described in the scriptures and what we find today. So it is definitely possible, and there are some references to that which are actually inferences. So uh, we won't quote this at this stage as an authoritative answer, but it is a possibility based on an inference from what we know about the characteristics of Kali Yuga to shrink physical dimensions. So thank you. Hare Krishna.